Welcome everybody to another episode of the Open Source Entrepreneur. We've actually got kind of a unique episode tonight because we only have Jimmy for a few minutes before we bring our guest on. Jimmy has been double booked, but he's been gracious enough to grace us with his presence to do one of my favorite parts of the episode where we talk about take it or leave it. We're going to get to that in just a minute, but Jimmy, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We know that you are spread very thin, and the fact that you're willing to give back to the monkeys, the entrepreneur monkeys, is amazing. So thank you for being with us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me, Casey.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. This is my favorite part of the episode. This is when I try to come at Jimmy and I really try to fool him and say, hey, are you going to take this thing? You're going to leave it? Jimmy has no idea what's coming. And quite frankly, sometimes it stresses me out. I'm like, let's see what I can get Jimmy to agree to or not agree to. And so this is one of my favorite parts of the episode, obviously besides talking to the guests. So here is the hot take it or leave it for this week. I saw last week a trend on social media that is called micro retirement. Have you heard of this, Jimmy?
I haven't.
So Gen Z, as smart as Gen Zers are, they have decided they don't want to wait until they're like 60, 65, 70 to retire. They are now spreading micro retirements throughout their career. So they will work for a handful of years, take a couple years off, work for a couple of years, take a couple of years off, which sounds like an amazing thing to do. It also sounds like it's somebody who is probably coming from money, because the people that I did see that were doing this were young Gen Zers, look like, and this is overgeneralization, they were coming off of mommy and daddy's money. But let's talk about micro retirement. Is this something, Jimmy, that you are taking or leaving?
Do you know I'm going to take it?
Okay.
I think that generation is, and I think in the tech world too, where you have unlimited vacations, you can work from home, you can work from just about anywhere. I think our generation is more like you have to work the 40, 50, 60 hours, put the sweat in and do your time. And I think as the younger generations are coming up is, do you know what? I'm going to work, do what I just have what I need and just go have vacation on the rest of the time off.
And see, I get that part of it. I get the part that is very much, that's what vacation time is for, right? So there's a part of me that's like, man, if I could take off 2 years, if I had a 2-year gap year and I had enough cash saved up to go do that, it sounds super intriguing. Would I hop on that? Absolutely, I would. So I'm saying as you, I'm going to take it, but I think what most people can afford to do at this point in the ballgame is use their time off strategically. I think as Americans, especially, not saying it's going to happen all over the world, but what I've learned from my American counterparts is we are very, very work driven. And so when we're gone from the office for like 5 or 7 days, we think the whole world is going to come to a screeching halt. We are checking our phones, we're checking our emails. We are so concerned that something is going to happen. And I've always been envious of my European counterparts or South Pacific counterparts who say, I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks. Nobody bothered me. I'm going to be gone for 4 weeks, right? Go on holiday. Nobody bothered me. And so I kind of agree. I think, is it feasible for everybody to take micro retirement? No, I absolutely do not. I do believe it's wise to at least take, a couple week-long vacations every year, even if that's a staycation. I know you can afford to do is not go to work, but recharge your batteries, go to the mountains, go to the beach, whatever you live close to. I think that's appropriate. I agree. I'm going to take it. If you can do it, take the micro retirement. If you can't, at least do yourself a favor and take some time off. Jimmy, from a mental health standpoint, what is completely disconnecting and having time off, like a solid vacation, or heaven forbid you are able to do micro retirement, what does that do for your mental health and your overall well-being?
I think it's like getting a good night's sleep, where it just resets the body, resets the soul, just resets everything. And when you go on a good vacation, a lot of people, if they've been gone for over 10 days, how many people do you talk to? They're like, all right, I'm ready to get back to work.
Yeah.
It's vacation enough, you played enough, it's time to start living in the world again.
Yep.
And working. And so it just resets everything. It connects relationships together, it connects the individual together, and it's just a whole new reset.
Yeah. I heard a quote the other day, and this is not my quote of the day. I have that coming up in just a minute, but I was listening to a podcast and somebody said, it was somebody who was really well traveled. And they said, the interviewer asked, where is your favorite place you've ever been to? And he says, and the gentleman responded, where my feet are. And I thought, what an interesting idea, because so often I find myself saying, oh, I wish I was over, I wish I was on vacation. I wish I was doing this. If I'm somewhere, I'm thinking about, if I'm at home, I'm thinking about work. If I'm at work, I'm thinking about home. And I need to understand, and it would be great for people to understand, if we can focus and harness our energy and be where our feet are, I think our lives would be so much better, so much better.
Oh,
And so,
oh,
so
you think about we do that with work too. When we get out of college or just we're in high school, you start off at $8 an hour and you're like, if only I could make $10 an hour. Then you make $10 an hour. It's like, oh, if only I made $13 an hour. It's never good enough. So that's it. That's awesome advice. Just be like, just wherever your feet are, that's where you need to be. Just live in that moment.
yep, be there. Okay, awesome. I love it. So Jimmy and I are both going to take micro retirement if you can do it. If not, at least take a vacation. Here is my quote of the week, Jimmy, that I heard. This actually came from Alex Hermosi. I don't know if you guys follow him. If you don't know who he is, genius marketer, genius business owner. Everybody should follow him. He's a great follow, Alex Hermosi. And he said this, and I'm just going to read it. He said, "The lazy don't know how to start, the losers don't know how to finish, and the legends don't know how to stop." And I thought that was so intriguing because as I look back at different phases of my life where I was struggling with one thing or another, and not that I was necessarily a loser or lazy in any particular instance, but as I looked at moments in my life where I definitely had more ups and downs, right? More energy sometimes, more drive. It followed that pattern. How do you feel about that, Jimmy? And I know we don't necessarily qualify people as lazy or losers. That's not what we're looking to do. But I think as you self-reflect and say, okay, am I really giving everything my all, or am I being kind of lazy? And am I being lazy so I don't know how to start? I think frequently we hit complacency, we don't know how to start, and so we just kind of fall into a lazy mode. And consequently, sometimes when you don't finish project, you do feel kind of like a loser, for lack of better words. You feel beat up, unmotivated, maybe struggling with something, right? Like you just feel incomplete is the best way I can put it. And then as I really
Mhm.
started thinking about when do I feel the most fulfilled, it's when I feel like a legend, when I'm doing so many things and I'm going down the right path and I'm making things happen, and I don't know how to stop. Now, that's probably somewhat unhealthy to think that way sometimes, but I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on that, Jimmy.
It's so hard because there's truth in all of it.
Yeah,
The lazy
yeah,
where you just can't going, but the legend where you just don't know where to stop, and it kind of goes back to that initial quote that you said, you're where your feet are at. And so I don't know, that one kind of took me by surprise, just because you want to be that legend, but you also when you're the legend and you don't know when to stop or pull it back, you can miss a lot of things
yeah,
too.
100%. 100%. Anyway, that's the quote of the
I
week brought to you this
like
week
that
by
quote.
Alex Hermosi. So if you're not following him, follow him. Great follow. Jimmy, we know that you got to step away. You have a family obligation, so thank you. You know that we have a great episode coming up with Cortney Marchant, so I'm about to bring her on in just a minute, which is going to be really exciting. So, Jimmy, thank you for being with us for just a moment. Before we go, I want to fast track part of that we always do at the end, but I do, Jimmy, want people to hear from you, your wisdom, and talk about the mental health moment brought to you, of course, by Deseret Counseling. Jimmy, drop on us the mental health moment for the week.
So apologize if I've used this because I've given so many mental health quotes. Yeah, I've been thinking about this for the last couple weeks. We have such a busy world. I was thinking about just the other day, I usually do in the morning like 30 minutes of um a business podcast I listen to, 30 minutes of something related to my field, 30 minutes of listen to something spiritually. I got my music, and sometimes you just have to shut it all out. And so the mental health moment is take 5 minutes a day, just shut everything out. If you're coming home and you feel like I can't, do you pull up to the parking lot, whether it's a park, whether it's a restaurant, whatever, pull it in, put your seat back, just close your eyes for 5 minutes, get a little reset, and then go home. So
I
just,
love
just turn
that.
just turn everything off.
Take a beat. I struggle with that. I am constantly connected from the very minute I wake up. I have a routine where I basically roll out of bed. I put in immediately some headphones because I wake up really early. So I put my headphones in. I listen to my religious stuff, to my scriptures for 15 to 20 minutes. Then I drive down to the gym. As soon as I get to the gym and they open that door, AirPods go in. I'm listening to podcasts or books or music, depending upon how I'm feeling. then I come home and I start working on side hustles. And so, you know, AirPods are back in because I'm listening to social media clips, I'm listening to something, and I don't reset. I push myself and I push myself and I push myself. And my sweet wife has told me before, she's like, you need to just sit in silence for a bit. Which terrifies me, I think, a little bit, to be with my own thoughts. But that's something that I think is indeed needed. So, Jimmy, great mental health moment. Take some time to unplug, be with yourself, find out who you are, and really make a difference.
And to add on to that really quick too is some people like kind of like you said, I don't know how to do it. I always say if you can't do five, start with one, start with two. If your mind starts wandering, just notice that your mind is wandering, and then bring it right back. If you hear a little bit of noise, just notice you hear noise, and then bring it right back.
Welcome to the Open Source Entrepreneur. First and foremost, I want to apologize. My co-host Jimmy had a family obligation tonight. Otherwise, he'd be with us.
That is
But he was
okay.
super excited to have you on with us. And we're really excited to hear all about your journey. So if
Thank
it's
you.
okay, Courtney, I would love to tell people a little bit about who you are,
Yeah.
just kind of read your
Yeah.
bio in, and then we'll just have a really great
Yeah.
conversation.
Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure
Perfect.
no echoes
Yep.
or anything. Okay.
No, you're perfect. Perfect.
Wait.
So, everybody, this is Cortney Marchant. She is a 28-year-old author, hailing right here from the great state of Utah. She's been married to her lovely husband, Kyle, who I happen to know very, very well, for 5 years. They have two wonderful dogs, Rocco and Paco.
Rocco and Poco.
Rocco and Poco,
Yep.
who are truly their fur babies. So for those of you who don't know, and you're going to find out more about this, Kyle actually was born with spina bifida and has been in a wheelchair the majority of his life. And so we're really excited to hear kind of his journey and how Cortney got really excited to write this book about Kyle. But a little more about Cortney. Her and Kyle have been married, like I said, for 5 years. They host a wonderful event every year called Wheelchair Palooza that helps bring together people that are handicapped and have wheelchairs and show them there's really no limits to the things that they can accomplish. She recently wrote her book called, so long. What's it called?
It's called Kyle's Magical Adventures.
Kyle's Magical Camping Adventures. I said it right in the bio, but I'm like, that's a long name and I always forget it. She wrote the book to really help children understand that, hey, listen, there's a variety of possibilities that people are going to look and shape and be different sizes. There's going to be disabilities, and really help kids connect with the idea of there's not one perfect thing for everybody. And so really excited to kind of dive into your process, what that looks like. But Cortney, welcome to the Open Source Entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate you reaching out.
Absolutely. We're so to have you. So I think frequently when people think about entrepreneurs, they don't necessarily relate that to authors.
Yes.
And so when I saw that you had released a book, because I know the Marchant family very, very well. For those who don't know, I grew up next to them I moved out of that neighborhood when I was 21 or 22, and they moved in when I was about 10 or so.
Wow.
And so I lived next to the Marchants for a very long time. I was actually their neighbor when Kyle was born. And so that's how long I've known the Marchant family. And I absolutely love them. They're some of my very favorite people. But I was so excited to see that your book, that not only was it written, I saw you post on Facebook, or Kyle had posted on Facebook that it was written. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is absolutely excellent. And as an entrepreneur, as an author, I said, I have to have her on and talk to her not only about the story behind it, but about her journey in becoming an author. So Cortney, tell us a little bit about how you started down the road of being an author.
So I actually wanted to be an elementary school teacher.
Okay.
And my life kind of changed. I actually went to school to become a hairdresser. So I own a day spa and do lashes now. But that has always been a passion of mine, is teaching children. And one time in high school, my teacher, I don't even remember the assignment, but the goal was to teach a science project to children.
Okay.
And there's winners. So I won, me and my partner won. And he's like, you should write a book. And I was like, oh yeah. So it's kind of been in the back of my mind for a really long time. And my sister actually was like, I think I figured out how to illustrate. And she was like, you write a book, I'll illustrate. Fast forward, she wasn't able to figure out illustrating, which is fine. But I wrote the book and I was all excited. And I was like, well, since you couldn't illustrate, do you care, if I get it illustrated? Yeah. So, but I've always just wanted to write a book. And my sister, she was the one that really was like, let's write a book about little Kyle. And I was like, oh my gosh, That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started.
I love this. So let's back up just a little bit. So you're actually a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
So not only are you an author, but you have other side hustles as well.
I
Talk
do.
to us a little bit. We'll come back to your book, but tell us a little bit about your other side hustles, what you're working on currently.
So I own a day spa and I do lashes. I don't do hair. I went to school for hair and never ended up doing hair.
That's your dream.
But me and Kyle bought my day spa. Oh gosh, it's been 3 or 4 years now, I think. And we've run that. And then I crochet, and that's more of just like a fun project that I do on the side. So yeah. I kind of sell some of that stuff on the side. So.
I love this. So you own a day spa, you crochet, you're an author, yep. And you're actually married into a family who they themselves are entrepreneurs as well, which is really cool. And actually, I need to have them on and talk all about their screen printing business and the business they built, because it's absolutely fascinating. So you're married into an entrepreneurship family, but I assume you've been addicted to the fast-paced world, kind of the struggle of an entrepreneur your whole life. And one of the really intriguing things about that is it like delivers little hits of like dopamine in your system.
Yes.
So you're like, I gotta win, I gotta win, I gotta win. And you have all these cool things. What was really, I would imagine as writing a book, there's probably ups and downs, right? In your journey. Talk to me a little bit about how you're able to push through I guess we call it writer's block, right? There's gonna be moments where you're very creative, very inspired, but there's also gonna be moments where you just are in a funk. Talk to us about your journey through that from kind of beginning to end.
Well, as being like more of the artistic side, I do get funks with everything, whether it's crochet or whether it is writing. Like everyone's like, you got to get your second book going. And I was like, I already have it, but I'm nervous. Like you kind of get nervous. I think mainly nerves pushed me to haven't do anything quite yet with that one. But yeah, I find like I get like writing and then I hyper focus on crocheting and then I hyper focus on like running my other business, and it just kind of like stacks on top of each other. And so that's kind of hard. And then I don't know, like I just try to like look my other book, like I want to write more than just the two, but I just kind of have to bounce ideas off people to see. And sometimes someone will say one thing and I'm like, there you go, that's it. And that spirals into another like book topic or like another crochet project or something like that.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about, because it is important, I think, to have, as a creative, to have kind of a circle of people that you can bounce ideas also off of, that you trust, that understand your process, where you're at. Talk to me about your, how you get feedback from people in your creative process.
So with actually this book, we kept it a complete secret.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
We kept it a secret from my sister. Knew I wrote, like people knew I wrote a book, but they didn't know that I was going to get it illustrated or anything like that. And that was kind of actually a downfall of ours for not exploring that, because there was like when I got it illustrated, the girl plugged in all of the words for me, and her first language wasn't English, and so there was a little bit of a barrier there, and she actually double printed one of our sentences, and she accidentally spelled accessibility wrong, and I didn't catch it because I was looking at it and looking at it and looking at it, and I was like, oh, it looks great, but I wasn't like thinking of like rereading it. And so my mother-in-law, she like called and was like, hey, there's a couple things that were messed up. And so luckily we were able to catch that and get that reworked. So I really, really, next time I'm going to have so many people proofread, so many people go over it. And yeah, so.
I love that. Trish, you said your mother-in-law knows Trish very well. A matter of fact, I think I saw Trish join. I remember writing, she picked me up from school one time. I think I wrote home the back of her little VW Rabbit that she had, like squished in the back. I freaking love the Marchants. Talk to me a little bit about I think where people get stuck a lot. I know a lot of people are like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. But they get really nervous. There probably is some, I'm obsessed right now with a topic of imperfect action.
Yeah.
Like you have to get moving. Yep. What inspired you when you didn't feel like you could take that next step to just take an imperfect action and move forward?
So I had the book written for like 2 months, And me and Kyle got the opportunity to go speak at a spina bifida event. And we were talking like, oh, we wrote a book and things like that. And that was like the moment I was like, I should get this published. Well, not published, like illustrated. And so that was the first big step. I was like, oh, we should really, because they were like, they seemed interested. And I was like, okay, maybe I should do it. Like, I think
Maybe I
that
got a
would be
thing.
fun. Yeah. So we bit the bullet. It's a very scary thing to do, and trust the process. Trust the process.
What does that process look like?
So first, I just wrote the book, honestly, in the notes on my phone.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's still there. So, and then since I kept it a secret, I don't know any like people to like edit or anything like that. So I actually put it in Chat GPT.
Okay.
And they did that for me, and I had Kyle reread and kind of did that. And then the next process was finding an illustrator, and that part's really expensive, which was kind of sticker shock. I was like, oh, I don't know if we can afford to go ahead and do this right now. And so I did a lot of digging and a lot of research, and I found somebody on Fiverr. Have you ever heard of Fiverr?
Yeah, totally.
Love Fiverr. So she illustrated it all, and it was probably about a month of us going back and forth and like picking and like, can you move that here and do that here? And it took about a month, and then I didn't get published. So it's a thing called Amazon KDP.
Okay.
And it's a file format, and they print and they send it out. Amazon does. So it's on Amazon listing, and they take over the rest.
Okay.
So Kyle actually was the one that did that for me.
Oh.
I'm not tech savvy in that area, so I'm like, I'll do the artsy stuff. You stick with like the Amazon and all the back end stuff. So he figured that all out and put it up there, and it was ready to go by November, the end of November. And we kept it a secret. It was up on Amazon for a little bit before we told anybody. And then they send us a copy to proof it and make sure we like it. And once we say it's good to go, they review it, make sure it's appropriate and everything like that. And then it's ready. It's live.
I love that. So you took one step in front of the other, not necessarily always knowing what the next step was.
Yeah.
But you just kind of put your head down and said, we're going to figure this out together.
Yep.
We have something special, and we have to push this through. Did you feel like there was something that was kind of just pulling that process along, that was just calling to you saying, we've got to get this out there and help kids understand that no matter your abilities, you are special. You are somebody who can contribute to the world. Like, what was that drive that just kept pulling you along?
So with the event that we do every year, there's a ton of kids that show up, and it warms my heart seeing all these kids come together as a group of kids who all use wheelchairs. And I'm like, they should be like accepted everywhere, like it shouldn't just be when they get together and they see other kids who are like them. So I think that kind of pushed it, because and then hearing like stories about Kyle growing up and the things that he had to go through, it just like, I don't know, that kind of pushed me.
Yeah, you know how to be told. And I think that's one thing that I really love about the state of the world that we're in, is almost anybody can have a voice. It becomes so accessible to be able to say, hey, we want to be on social media, or we want to write a book. And it is so accessible, but so many people still are terrified to do it. So just a massive round of applause to you and Kyle for saying, we want to do this thing, and we're going to push forward. And we have a story to tell.
Yeah.
I'm actually over here getting goosebumps just thinking about how much you've been able to open up opportunities for children everywhere to know, hey, you're not alone, right? This is something that we have a community, we have a set of people who are here to help you, because there are not a lot of books that are catered to kids in wheelchairs. So I absolutely love that. I don't necessarily want to stay on the book. We definitely can, but I do want to find out more about the Wheelchair Palooza that you guys put on. Talk to us about that, and talk to us about that event, and what that entails, and how people get to be part of this community.
Yeah, it's amazing event. We started, oh gosh, we were, I think, some of the first to start, and we actually didn't put it on the first few years, but the lady who put it on moved, so we got handed with one of our friends. Her name's Amanda, and so it's a event where kids get together and they can go. We do it at a skate park every year, and accessible sports. So some years we've had basketball and all the chairs that you have to have for a basketball. And like we mainly focus it around like WCMX, which is wheelchair motocross, which is getting kids in the skate park and doing tricks and all that and stuff. But we do have like booths and things like that. Like Woodward Park City comes up every year, and we're trying to get it there. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed. But there's just a bunch of different like chair manufacturers. There's medical supplies people that show up, and we do you know who Aaron Wills is by chance?
Aaron Wills.
He is the one that created WCMX, and he's one of our good friends. So he comes every year, and he's like travels with Nitro Circus and stuff, and he's crazy. He flips his wheelchair, he stresses me out, but all the kids know Aaron, love Aaron. So he comes, but we have like food, and all the kids get to go like skate around and hang out, and it's just a really cool event. Really,
that is cool. While we're kind of on this event, if people, and I hate to put you on the spot here, but if people did want to get involved with this event, if they wanted to be a sponsor, if they wanted to like show up and support, first and foremost, when is the event? Is it like on a same weekend every year or something?
We're trying to get it the same time every year. We haven't solidified that. We're working with Woodward to see if we can get it there every year on the same time every year. But it kind of, I think we do it, I can't remember when we did it this year. We had to mix it up because Aaron had babies one year and things like that. So it is the same time of month, like every month. Not every month. Once a like
every year.
Month. Yeah, every year the same month. That's what I'm trying to say. And yeah, we would love it. We're trying to actually become oh my gosh, I just blanked. Hold on. A nonprofit. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Trying to become a nonprofit so more sponsors will be able to sponsor us, because last year we did have a little bit of a hard time finding that.
Yeah.
But we are looking for sponsors. We are looking for volunteers. Always, always, always. So that anybody that's wanting to help, reach out to me on our Instagram and we can get that all figured out.
So just for people, drop your Instagram handle so they can reach out to you, because that is a really cool opportunity. I know there's people all around that want to be able to give back. And what a neat opportunity. So what is your Instagram handle? If they have questions.
It is Marchant Kin. Marchant Kin. Yep.
MARCHANT.KIN.
Yep.
Okay. So if you guys want to, if you're interested in helping out with Wheelchair Palooza, please hit her up. Fantastic opportunity to give back to the community, be part of it. Whether that's, I'm assuming you guys would accept like monetary donations or in kind, right? Like people showing up and helping out.
Yes. Anything is greatly, greatly appreciated.
Okay, cool. So we've got actually a handful of people on, and I'm just going to drop for everybody that's on right now. If you have a question that you want to throw at Cortney, I've seen a couple already that we'll get to, but if you have a question, whether it's about Wheelchair Palooza or about book publishing and her journey as being an author, please drop those there and we will make sure that we answer those coming up. I did have a question for you, and you already kind of touched on it a little bit. Talk to me about finding, because I think a lot of people can go into being an author. They have an idea. They may use some chat GPT. They may use something, right, to help them write the book. When it comes to illustrators, that I think for a lot of people, that's like one hurdle they have to overcome.
Yes.
Talk to me. So you found yours on Fiverr. How did you vet your illustrators so that you guys felt comfortable working with them?
I messaged a ton of illustrators just to get quotes, and kind of we wanted to stick to a certain price range. And that was kind of our downfall, because I would have illustrated actually a little bit differently, but we were on like money crunch. So, but we just messaged every single one and who we felt fit and was able to like communicate well with us, willing to change things if we needed. Like some of them are like, you only get like 5 changes. And I'm like, like what if I don't like it? And so really research is like the key, and communicating with them prior to even agreeing to them, because some of them they're on Fiverr, at least they would quote you, and then other things would start stacking up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need this amount of pages, and it's only 25 pages, I need 27, that's going to be an extra blah blah blah, you know. So just communicating with people and really researching who you want before you do it. Because I love our book, don't get me wrong, I love the illustrations, I think they turned out cute. I had a different vision in my head So if we do write another book, I think we may go with another illustrator just to see if we can accomplish what my thought process was for the book.
Yeah. How did you overcome that component of it where you're like, oh, it's like almost there, it's almost there, and how did you finally become comfortable saying this is good enough? We want to run with
You
it.
know what? I'm a perfectionist, and my Kyle was the one that's like, honey, it's fine. It looks great. It's portraying exactly what you want. It's going to be okay. And I was like, but this isn't perfect and this isn't perfect. And he was like, I promise it's going to be okay. So I let him kind of like talk me down that cliff because I wanted it a little bit different on every aspect, but it was my thought process. I was like, it's not exactly what I want on the page and I can't draw. So, and I kind of had to realize like, if you can't draw, you know, they can't make it like you want it because you're not able to draw them exactly how you want it, you know? So he's the one that helped me with that.
Well, and what I love about that support from Kyle is that I've seen so many entrepreneurs get stuck on a really good idea because they're looking for that perfection
Mm-hmm.
and they're looking for that perfection. So the thing that they are chasing never actually comes to pass. A
Yep.
book never gets published. The course never gets made. The business never starts because they're waiting for that right, perfect moment. So I
Yep.
think you and Kyle did a brilliant job of saying, we're entrepreneurs. We have to go. We feel the call. And at the end of the day, Cortney, like this is a great first step. And it's probably not your magnus opus, right? This is probably not what you're going to hang everything on.
Yeah.
But you've started the journey, which is more than like 95% of the people ever do. They're all talk. And where you and Kyle put this into action, that is the super cool thing that sets you apart from everybody else that says, well, one day.
Yep. It was scary, but it was worth it.
Yeah, it absolutely is worth it. I absolutely love that. Okay, so talk to us. I've had a couple people, and I don't know if you feel comfortable saying what the next book looks like. But I've had a couple people in here to say, hey, listen, what like book number 2, what does that look like?
So it's going to be another Kyle adventure.
Okay.
My main focus with these books is I want to have a series of Kyle's adventure and then open up to another kid with a different disability.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're going with this one. Kyle, right now my focus is little Kyle, because, you know, I got him over here being able to tell me.
Attached to the guy?
Yeah, I kind of like him. So we're going to do another adventure of Kyle. So yeah, that's
I love that. Any teasers as to like a when it might be coming out?
I actually haven't thought about that yet.
Okay.
Everyone, my family's like, you got to get another one. You got to get another one out. So I kind of wanted this one to have its own little special time.
Yeah. That's super smart.
Yeah. And let that one have its time. I do have it written, so it's ready to go. It's just actually like doing it that I have to. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know when that'll be.
And I think that's an important part of the entrepreneur's journey is to be able to sit back and really enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
I've been guilty multiple times of hitting a really cool milestone and just breezing right past it.
Yeah.
And even though everybody else is saying this is significant, you should celebrate. I'm like, nope, got to go to the next thing, got to go to the next thing, and always just chasing. And so that takes a ton of courage and a ton of like smarts to just sit back and say, we're going to enjoy this for a minute. We just published a book, which is more than a lot of people ever do.
Yep.
So kudos to you guys for being able to like revel in the moment, let it get its legs, talk to people, go on podcasts, share it everywhere. And then when the time is right, go ahead and do the next one, right? And which I think that's a beautiful thing. One thing that we actually failed to mention and and we kind of just breezed over, but for those people who are joining and aren't quite sure what spina bifida is, can you talk a little bit to what spina bifida is, how little Kyle, your character, little Kyle, right, came into play. I obviously know Kyle is bigger now, right? I still think of mine. I have some great stories we can share about little Kyle that I knew growing up. But talk to us a little bit about what spina bifida is and raise some awareness for that.
So spina bifida occurs when the baby's in the womb, and it's where their spine doesn't fully develop in a certain area. It can go through from the base of the neck all the way down to your tailbone. And where it actually is affected is what from there down is affected. So with Kyle, his is right on the lower part of his back. So his like lower part, his legs are mainly affected. But it can happen from like chest down. It could happen anywhere. So it's affected that way. I mean, you know, it's shocking. I know a lot just by being married to Kyle. but there's also a lot of things that I'm still learning
Yeah.
about spina bifida because every case is different.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. And it's one of those things that I anticipate for the length of your marriage. I've been married to my sweet wife for 21 years now, and I'm still learning things about my
Yeah.
wife. And so I think that's something that as you move along, you'll learn more and more about it. But I think for everybody watching and listening, the most important thing is that you are doing something.
Yeah.
There are many people who just sit by and don't do anything, but you have
Yep.
a loving spouse, you have loving support system, and they're there for you. And I
Mhm.
think what you're going to find about all this group of weirdos that follow us because they're entrepreneurs is they're also looking for a way to give back,
Yeah.
and they're looking for a way to support too. And so I think we're going to find a really neat group here. So somebody on the chat, I'm going to call her out. It's my wife.
Okay.
She actually has a question. She says, and you touched on this a little bit,
Yeah.
but just recap for everybody. What inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me is I always wanted to be an elementary school teacher and teaching kids. Also, Kyle's experiences as a child, and how many people don't realize like what actually like why people use wheelchairs. And I like me personally, when me and Kyle first got together, you don't think of, oh, can a wheelchair get in there? Is there wheelchair access in that building? Is there things like that that you don't think about unless you know someone in a chair? And I wanted everybody to normalize wheelchairs from a young age.
Yeah.
So if you can teach from a young age, then that's going to be normal the rest of their lives. So that's
I love
what I
that.
want to.
I love it. What I anticipate has happened because it did in my life when Kyle was born as well.
Mm-hmm.
It helped open my eyes a little bit to like you said, the surroundings,
Mm-hmm.
right? What's going on, to the opportunities that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really helps you understand a little bit more about humans, how they come in all different shapes and forms and sizes, and really just giving love, right? I
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally believe that we were put on this earth to give love, to give
Yep.
back, to be just decent human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. I think it is time that we start to normalize and say there are people that are in wheelchairs and there are people that of all shapes and sizes, like we
Yep.
said. So I think that's a really important part of it. Another question that we have, I'm going to throw at you is. And I really enjoy this question. Was there a specific part of the book that was particularly difficult or fun to write?
Honestly, the whole book was fun to write. The hard part is I'm very critical of myself. So I kept asking Kyle, like, does that sound okay? And I want to make sure that I use the right verbiage. So I was like, is that like correct? Like, can I say that? Like, what's the do's and don'ts? So that's where I was a little stressed. And the stressful part of actually putting a book out there and people reading it and the judgment that I fear that I've never had any. Luckily, everyone's been like, Cortney, it's been so great. I love it. But that fear of people not liking it, that was the hard part.
Yeah, no, that is, talk to me about that vulnerability because this is your heart and soul. This is one of your babies. And you basically went, here, everybody look at it.
Yeah.
Right? Talk to me about how you overcame some of that anxiousness and being that vulnerable.
Honestly, talking to everybody and finally getting it out there and like the reactions we got, like we told Kyle's dad and his whole family at his dad's birthday dinner, and his dad was sitting right next to me and he goes, Cortney, I'm gonna cry. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, what? Like, I didn't think like, I'm like, oh, this is just a book I wrote, like, but he was like, I'm gonna cry. And I was shocked. And all the support we got, that's honestly just getting out there and fighting that like fear for a second, and the love and support we got, I should say, from it was like, that's what really was like, oh my gosh, like this is kind of cool. This is fun, so just
100%. And that's what I would say that to any entrepreneur, right? I think you're always going to have, unfortunately, I think you're always going to have haters in some way, shape, or form. Whether somebody decides, hey, I'm going to start putting stuff out on social media, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do something, there's going to be a critic, right?
Yep.
And I think part of being an entrepreneur is saying, I need to let the good stuff in and block the bad stuff out.
Yep.
And or accept the bad stuff and let it just roll off my back.
Yep.
And there becomes a real power. There's one of my, speaking of good books, there's a book that I'm reading right now called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And she talks all about being able to say, let people talk about you. That you're not going to be able to control that.
Yep.
Right. And so I think once you understand that I can't control what people think about me, I can't control what they say, I can control how it affects me. Right. I think that's a very powerful thing that as an entrepreneur, you start to have some thick skin, especially when you go into a space where you are putting your words out, when you are, putting your face on social media, whatever that looks like. You have to be willing to like shun that, right?
Yeah.
So that's really, really tricky. So kudos to you for saying this is a really vulnerable part of my life. And really what you did is you let the entire world into your and Kyle's relationship. And that can be very, very scary.
Yes.
And so I love the fact that you said, you know what, the story that we can share, the impact that we can have is greater than the fear that people are going to talk about us.
Yep.
So I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
There are a couple of comments that says, Kyle's mom looks great in the book. This is looking good in the book.
She does. The illustrator did Trish really good.
Yes.
She did really good. And it looks great. I love
absolutely good. Just going, let's see. Looking through some people are asking where Kyle is. I'm assuming he's just off camera, is my guess.
I don't know if he was wanting to be on here or not. He's more, I can try to.
He's a behind the scenes guy. He's a behind the scenes guy.
Get him. He's more than welcome to come on in here.
I think just everybody, Kyle needs to know everybody loves him. And like eventually, yes, you ought to like show the real Kyle, because when I saw the picture of little Kyle in the book, I was like, oh, like in my brain, when I go back to like, so I used to, the Marchants, remember, I had an annoyingly loud car, not only like an exhaust, but like a stereo system. And I remember washing my car and having Kyle would come over and he'd listen to the radios. I was like waxing the car and stuff. And it was, so like in my brain, I'm like, that is the perfect like cartoon depiction of like little Kyle.
I love it.
So I absolutely love that. Just scrolling through here to see if anybody has any questions. If anybody does have questions for Cortney, you're wondering about publishing a book, wondering about her process, please drop that here. Just double check it here. Normally my co-host would help me out with this, but he's out partying somewhere.
I see a lot of my family in here, so they probably
very supportive. They probably already know.
They already know all.
But this is way bigger than just your family, right? So another question is, what has been the most rewarding part of becoming a published author for you?
Seeing the support and love from my family and my friends. I expected my family to buy like maybe 10, like each one of them buy one or whatever. We sold quite a few books in the first month, and that, not even the financial part of it, just that people were so excited to get our book that they went out and ordered one, like quickly. It went quick. 2 days, we were like, holy cow. Like, so the love and support that we have gotten from this is amazing. That's like the most rewarding. And seeing, we have a friend, and I think she might be in here. Her name's Lindsay. Her little boy has spina bifida. And he was, I think, 6 months when me and Kyle first started dating. Okay. And she would ask all these questions. And I just think it's so cute to have her son, who we are really close with, see a kid in a book that's in a wheelchair. So that's cool to me too, to see the little kids like, oh my gosh, there's someone like me in a book,
Absolutely love that. Okay, another question. Did you learn anything surprising about yourself while writing the book?
Yeah, that I can do it. I have never, my strong suit in school was never reading, and it was never like English and all that. Like, it never has been. And so I was nervous, but I figured out I could do it. And that's what was really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I think frequently we underestimate ourselves. Frequently we say we can do things. We may not know how to do something, so we just write it off. And so it's really intriguing, and sometimes it takes a special person to say, nope, we're just going to figure it out. We're going to keep going one step in front of the other. Jay Wow, hopefully you know Jay Wow. I think you might.
I do. He's my bestie.
Yeah, Jay Wow. Jay Wow says, did you exceed your expectations for your book?
Yes, I did a lot, and I'm so happy and proud of that. I never thought it would go this well, and so that right there exceeded my expectations. So
I love that. Talk to us. Tell me, like, was there a moment where you realized, or you've had somebody come up that's read your book and like, this has made an impact already in my life?
You know what? I one of my, once again, Lindsay, she posted a video of, I don't know who it was, this guy reading the book to a bunch of people at a table, and she posted it on her Instagram, and I cried.
Yes.
That was my moment of like, oh, look at all these kids who don't even know me, like they're reading this book, and I'm like, oh, that was really touching to me. But we haven't really talked to a lot of people that have bought it besides my family, but they're all, of course, are going to tell me they love it. And, so I would love to hear, honestly, if more people wanted to reach out, that'd be cool.
Yeah. And again, they can reach out to you at
Marchant.kin.
Marchant.kin.
Yep.
So A Whiteman 3 says, what's next for you and Kai?
We're hoping to grow our family soon. We want a little baby. That'd be cool. Just growth,
Yeah.
Happy growth. I don't know. We haven't really thought about it.
I love that. Happy growth is a good goal for sure. I think you've got a couple different businesses you're working on, and some just passions in general. And I think one of the really neat things is that spoken like a true entrepreneur is what's next. And you just want growth and happiness. There will be ups and downs. I think anybody can attest, whoever has run a business or started something, there's always going to be ups and downs. And it's that pushing past to get that growth. And I think when you are determined to say, I want growth in 2025, you may not get the growth you expected, but I guarantee when you look back in December of 2025, you will be a different person than you were in January of 2025.
Yep.
And so I think that's a very appropriate answer to just say, we want growth and happiness. Yeah. Let's see. The Journey to Beauty said, what's something you've learned about Kyle by writing the book?
I learned quite a bit, actually. The original story plan for this book was to write about bullying situations.
Okay.
And I asked Kyle, I said, tell me about, what was your childhood like in elementary school and things like that. And I actually found out there was this one kid that bullied Kyle, and I was so mad. I'm like, we're adults now. Let's have a conversation.
We ride it down.
Yeah. I was so upset about that. So it kind of made us talk more about things that you don't really talk about, like childhood memories and things like that. Like it forced us to open up that kind of relationship, So I thought that was interesting.
That really is intriguing. And I told you 21 years later, my wife and I still have some of those moments where I had a very interesting childhood, and off camera we can talk about it, or you can ask Kirk and Trish, but it was really difficult. There's been moments that I've blocked out massive spans of my childhood, I just can't remember them. And I think frequently people who deal with some trauma, right, tend to block out moments of their life.
Yeah.
And so that's I think that's probably part of what makes your book so intriguing, is that Kyle was able to look at those and say, okay, this was something very real that happened. Let me share that with you. And you as a spouse and as an author being able to receive that with empathy and sympathy and say, okay, I understand you. This helps me be a better, help tell your story better, which I think is really, really neat. And so congratulations. And Kyle, you're off screen, but thank you for sharing that vulnerability with Cortney, so we can understand how to better help people in similar situations and be better human beings ourselves.
Yeah.
Somebody said, Jamie Comstock said, you're everyone's favorite person, which I definitely agree. I want to give a massive shout out to Linz. I'm going to say this wrong. It's
Lindsay, the one I was talking about, our friend.
Lindsay. Yep. Lindsay has one of the massiff most baller moves ever. She said, we gifted 50. She didn't write that. Well, I'm going to call her out. I don't know who's going to see this, but she gifted 15. She said, we gifted 15 copies of the book to all of our friends with kids, so that everyone can have knowledge of people in wheelchairs. Man, Lindsay, you're making me tear up. Thank you for helping share not only a really unique story, but thinking about other people besides yourself, and helping the world understand that people of all ages need to be seen and heard. What a beautiful gift. Gosh, Daniel, Lindsay, I don't even know you. Oh my gosh.
She's the one that has her little boy who has spina bifida as well.
Oh, I love it.
So it's I think it's she's a big supporter in all that we do.
Lindsay, I love that. Thank you for breaking me down at 8 or 9 on a Thursday night. Another question. What do you hope children and parents take away from Kyle's adventure?
To talk about the harder topics, because a lot of parents will be like, don't stare. And it makes people in wheelchairs to kids almost like, oh my gosh, why can't I stare? What's wrong? You know, and to have the conversations, the harder conversations with your kids that they're just normal. And you have to just teach your kids things and come up to us. Like a big thing for us is when we say, like when parents are like, don't stare. Instead, teach your kids to say hi and wave and be friendly, you know? So I think the knowledge of wheelchairs and the acceptance of wheelchairs is the number one thing that I want people to take away from that.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that. Tell me, for everybody's listening, because for those who don't know, what we do is we post our long forms. So you can go back and watch us and watch how amazing Cortney is. But then we'll cut it up into shorts also, and post those on social. But how do people appropriately? How do you help teach kids to say it's okay? Like, what are some appropriate questions? What are ways to approach somebody in a wheelchair and talk to them and have those questions or answer, you know, and not because I think parents are like worried about like being like offending them, right? Like,
Yes.
oh, we can't talk to him. We don't want to, like, it's scary. It's whatever. How do you approach somebody appropriately that has a disability who's in a wheelchair? How do you start that conversation? How do you? I mean, you and I are adults, so we're just like we say hi, right?
Yeah.
But like, how do you you know? Are there questions? Are there things that people can do to help their children feel comfortable?
A lot of the time, the first thing kids will say, and a lot of adults will understand that kids are kids, and they just say, "What's wrong with you?" I wouldn't ever say what's wrong with you because that's more of like a negative statement. Honestly, saying hi and just having normal conversation, and not a lot of the times people will speak to people in wheelchairs and they talk to them like they're babies, or they don't have the mental capacity to have a normal conversation. So honestly, normal conversation is the big, like a key in that. We had a lady come up to us, and Kyle could speak more about this. I think she was in a wheelchair. We were at an event, and yeah, she was in a wheelchair, or one of her kids was in a wheelchair. I think we had two different, I'm combining two, but she's like, what put you in a wheelchair? And Kyle's like, well, I think she had an accident and got paralyzed. But Kyle was born with spina bifida. So a lot of the times people automatically think paralyzed, you know,
Yeah.
they only know paralyzed. And so I think, Kyle would have to touch more on that. I don't know how to answer that question as well as I think he could.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. But I think at the end of the day, right, there's beautiful souls like Lindsay who have children, who have spina bifida, might be in a wheelchair. You know, there's Cal who's in a wheelchair. Guys, what it boils down to is be a decent human being.
Yep.
Treat somebody like you'd want to be treated.
Exactly.
Talk to them, shake their hand, say hello, give them a hug, whatever's appropriate for the setting, right?
Yep.
But they're just decent human beings, like everybody else, and there's no reason to shy away from that. And I think as a society, we're taught that multiple times, and so I absolutely love the awareness that is being brought from your book to the ADA community, and allowing people to be able to see a glimpse into what it's like, right? Because I think frequently people don't understand some of the like inaccessible things that just can't be done.
Yeah,
so that's really, really cool. Lindsay actually said 100% normal conversations. Don't just stare, say hello. They don't bite, and she says hard.
they're just people. So talk to them like they're people.
Absolutely love that. This has been a super fascinating conversation. I am so impressed with your ability to be an entrepreneur, to be an author, to move forward on something that's so passionate for you. I think I can speak for everybody when I say I am super excited for round 2. And even more excited to see what happens as your can I call it an empire? As your series, your empire expands. To bring in different awarenesses to different disabilities. I think that's really, really neat. Cortney, I think that's all the questions that we had. Everybody is super impressed with you. We absolutely love having you on. We want to have you back on again to talk about lashes and your spa and everything else that's going on, because you are just a hustler. Thank you for being a voice for good. Thank you for pushing the world of ADA forward. If people want, I want to do a couple of shout outs. People want to get in contact with you to either to have you as a guest somewhere, as a speaker, as on another podcast. If they want to take part of the Wheelchair Palooza, they can hit you at
Marchant.kin. I'll see if Kyle will tag it.
Kyle, tag that in there. So
tag it in the comments, honey.
Tag that in the comments, Kyle. And then last but not least, how can people, if they're listening, they haven't got a hold of your book yet, how can they get a hold of Kyle Goes Camping?
So
I made that name up. I know that's not right.
It's Kyle's
Kyle's
Camping Adventure.
Magical Camping.
It's perfect. We actually have a link in our bio.
Okay.
And it's on Amazon. So if you go to our bio, click the link, it'll pull up a link tree, which will have a bunch of different, like our social medias. It also will have like our email address if you do want to contact us through our email. And then it'll have the link to the Amazon right there. So
I absolutely love that. So make sure you guys jump over their profile. If you're not already friends with them, jump over, look at the link tree, get the book, follow them, donate, get ready for Wheelchair Palooza, because there's a bunch of cool things coming up that you guys can be a part of. And I know as a community of entrepreneurs, like I said, we are always looking to support and give back. And Cortney, you have been absolutely amazing. Thank you for bringing this to light. And we are so thrilled for you. And before I leave, I have to tell all the Marchants that I saw there, I love you guys very much. It's absolutely like what a wonderful family, and I love you guys. Cortney, we love you. Thank you for being with us tonight. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Good night.
Bye, guys.
God bless.